Yo, 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 what's up, man? Tickles. AMC Ape. Pro Jeweler, Eric. Eric, yes. Ethan, about a week inside the POI. It doesn't surprise me that, going into the POI, we're seeing some nice volume coming in. Typically that's expected. But yeah, I'm kind of here to talk about the next thing moving forward. Last week, we covered a few things with AMC, guys. Like most of the time, where I come in and talk about AMC is inside the POI. That's why these videos that you see are, they're pretty spread apart, because with the correlation that the POI provide, the entire cycle provides for us here, we don't see volatility really happening outside of these, this 13-day window. So that's why, we're very patient with AMC's price action. And yeah, I mean, right now we're seeing good things happen. There's a lot that needs to be checked off first, but things are playing out. I mean, they're looking pretty good right now. I'm going to talk about what needs to happen next year for AMC to basically not see any more downside. Okay, so I'm gonna get straight to it, man. Straight to it, and I'll kind of come back and cover it here on the second half of the stream. But all right, so the POI, guys, let's talk about it. Here's the cycle. You can see we had a long break here on the last cycle. All right, volatility a little bit in the middle, kind of dumps in. So follows the cycle very much, pretty accurately here. This entire cycle, right, on AMI is, say, pretty accurate, right? So going up to the beginning, you see some volatility. It kind of dries out, follows the same cycle, and then starts dumping towards the end. So my whole concern here was we started off very bad, right? The price action, and here in March we had a catalyst, right? A dilution catalyst, and that obviously brought the price down. And we pretty much said, if we're tracking November 2020, then the cycle, here's November 2020. Would show us that towards the beginning of that, and remember that this cycle we're tracking, guys, is we have pretty much 3 cycles that we're tracking here, and it's 1-to-1. So if you take this pattern here, it's going to look the same back to 2020. So my whole thing was, and I pulled up the bullish thesis and the bearish thesis here. The bullish one was that, well, we followed this pattern here, and not to the same levels, right? We're not necessarily tracking the levels to the upside here. We're just tracking volatility, even though the levels are pretty accurate on the way down. So we started to kind of stray away here. April 10th, the price started to come down, but now we have this spring setup. And one of the things I said, guys, is we must come up to that 350 range by mid-April time for things to be okay, and that's this week. So we pretty much have towards the end of the week really to move up another 50 cents. I already like the price action where it's at. I like the fact that this did not fall below the 240 low here, and we did have some pretty crazy wicks in the after-hour session, but I like that it's holding where it's at right now. We currently have a little hovering projector, is what I call it. This little hovering projector setup on AMI. And yeah, let's take a look at November 2020, and we'll kind of go from there. Cover the 2 here. I got to get my changes set up here. Indicator. Got 3. So we're going to cover this. All right, we're going back to November. The hourly. Okay. Now, we're both on the hourly time frame here, and you can clearly see that the chart here is a lot shorter, and that's just because TradingView has is lacking some data. So the way that I do this, just to kind of get everything in place, so we'll measure this a little bit here and try to wing it in scale, correct scale. We have about 140 days. That's how you guys know 146. You can see that it's a lot smaller down here. We're both on the hourly time frame, so it's try to line it up as much as I can here. About 146. So this is going to be how we're going to kind of analyze the chart here a little bit. 146 and 146. Okay, same amount of time that we're dealing with down here. We're in the same, like if you take both cycles, it's the same thing. This is the start of a cycle here, and this is the next cycle in January. So both of them are accurate in time, and we are pretty much right here in the cycle. Now, there's a few things that we have to track here. We have the changes indicator. It's got 3 different parameters overlaid on top. Okay, we have 25, 250, and then 1,000, 250 at the bottom here. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here. It's going to make this whole thing a lot better to analyze here with this indicator. All right, so here is the last cycle. And the reason I'm measuring this with a pretty, so this one has a length of 1,250 is to really see the bigger picture, right? While also measuring the micro chart. So this guy right here is going to be the micro chart, and we can see everything happening here. All right, we could see the pattern structure. Really, the price is extremely oversold when comparing the two. Anywhere. So past this section here, we can't really compare too much of what AMC is doing because AMC was pretty green and was accumulating for quite some time following like a macro declining chart. So we can't really compare the two in that way because AMC obviously is extremely oversold right now following the ape conversion and split. All that made the price come down. So all that, but we can definitely start tracking it from here, which is exactly what we're doing. And look at this, right? Up to this point, we start to see some green. All right, this is the important part. This is where I want to look at the chart because it's definitely looking like November 2020. You can see this comes all the way up to that 23, 25 range. Okay, and over here, it goes all the way up to 50. So not quite there yet, but this is the start of the POI. Volume starts coming in, coming from a pretty oversold territory down here. Okay, now this is just again trying to see the macro, the micro together, just to have more levels here that we can track, not just the pattern, right? Because the pattern at the end of the day is not really going to give us it's only going to tell us where the volatility zone is. That's it. Again, guys, the 350 range is very important when it comes to this POI. This POI is not over yet. It ends around the 30th of April. So the end of the month is where it ends. Okay, we just started to come in. Remember that it's 13 trading days, not including weekends. So that is why the cycle here lasts a little bit more. Would be about almost 20 days if you're counting weekends. Now, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. We've got a track here on the daily chart. It's super weird too. Like, you can clearly see it flip here. Like, it starts flipping and then it comes back in. Comes back in like this. So depending on what happens in the next few days is going to be very telling here of what the price is going to do next. And remember, for this, it's for the people that have been here forever, and you guys know that when I overlay the charts like this, I am not calling for this price action at all, right? We know that this is just a volatility zone is all it is. Okay, the price can go up. This would like suffice as the POI. Remember, anything that goes up 70% in the cycle will tell us that. So here I'm going to pull it up on the daily so you guys can see that really all that needs to happen for this POI to be active and you know, kind of start changing its trajectory here on the macro is it has to go up at least 70%. And here's the daily chart to kind of outline this a little bit here. So we use the 13-day cycle here is how we do it on the daily. And this is how we know that the POIs are active, they're real. Here are the positive POIs, okay? Here are the inverse POIs. We've had two so far, and the one that's coming up, I think, has a likelihood of it could be either, right? But right now, things are kind of, they're pretty neutral, I'm going to say, just because at first it started to fall, and then now we're kind of seeing a turnaround, so it could flip at any point. But what all these have in common, guys, and we'll start with the positive ones first, is that they all go up at least that 70% mark. So every single one, right? November, it starts. All starts, it goes up 100% on average in the 13-day window. And then anything above that clearly is going to be like you're going to see that reflected on the chart. But to the downside, same thing. You're not going to see that same drop, right? Because the max is 0, right? You're not going to see anything below that. But this is pretty much the same. This drop that happened here in August is pretty much the same thing inverse to what happened in June. If I had this chart down here in log, you would probably be able to see that. It would go all the way down to those levels. So here is what we got going next. All right, so every single cycle, right, goes up at least 70%, these last two. And this one right here, we are clearly not seeing that yet. This is down at that 40% mark, but look at this. Goes down to the 40% mark, and now it's heading back up to that 0 threshold. So that means that on this POI, by the end, if it's trading above that 70% range from the start, then we that would suffice again for this push to the upside. So a 70% push at least from where we're currently trading at right now. I'll tell you guys where that would be. At least would be about the 550 range from where we're currently trading at, and that would come up to resistance, right? 550. From there, it could do whatever it wants. If let's say that AMC repeated what happened back in 2021, well, then yes, you would have this same pattern play out. The same pattern that we're looking at right now is the one in November. Again, I'm not calling for that price range. I'm just letting you guys know that before, when AMC has gone up that way, it has gone up at least, well, in January, where everything was squeezing, right, it went up at least 640% on average on that 13-day window. In June, it went up 360%. And all these other POIs only went up about 100, right? 100. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty steep move. We've seen a lot of stocks do this already this year. So it doesn't leave that. It's not something that's impossible. Definitely, volume is going to be key. We know that. And here's some. I want to talk about some of the other stocks that have done this because I think it's pretty relevant here. So a few other stocks recently have done this that are also a pretty strong correlation with AMC. Like we have Jag. What is it? I'm on crypto. Jaguar Health. These guys ran around the same time. Now, I'm not. This is not a stock that I am a fan of or anything, because it's known for like doing reverse splits and stuff like that. But what we're talking about here, guys, is just the correlation of these kind of beat down stocks going up around the same time. So January, right? This thing starts pumping like crazy. Look at the reverse, what the reverse split did, right? This goes from 1,000 now to 16 cents, right? But this thing was and had been pumping the last few days. It was up like 50%. Kind of here from the start of March, just kind of choppy on the way up, but definitely some volatility. So some of the same stocks. Also, the cannabis sector was doing the same thing, right? We have a correlation with the cannabis sector and the meme sector going up around the same time. So that is good stuff. And hey, I'm always going to talk about the good and the bad. I talked about a lot of the bad actually going into this POI here. Still my projection in that if it does flip, we pulled up the market cap chart on AMC, because that really is something that needs to be talked about, as we can't, it provides a pretty natural version of the chart that we wouldn't normally see on a chart that has had reverse splits and conversions. It's a hidden thing. I think a lot of people rely on just the levels, and they can't believe that the price is where it's currently trading at, with the new chart that we have. But it's really not the OG chart of AMC, right? The OG chart of AMC is always going to be that market cap chart. So it's very important that we take a look at that, and kind of go from there. But if AMC follows through correctly here, and we start to see more and more positive things for fundamentals, because they do matter at the end of the day, we for the macro, right? For the macro, then we can definitely start to see a reversal here. But it's going to need to be, good for the rest of the days, right? Coming. So that's that, man. Let's see. Let's pull up here the intraday chart, see what we got going on. I do want to talk about some of these intraday patterns too, because we can track the macro as much as we want, but tracking some of these moves in the short term, also a pretty relevant thing to do. Patterns, guys, are very important. Another correlation too with the market, AMC tends to rally when the markets, and this is, considering any macro direction or phase that we're in, it doesn't necessarily matter as much, because remember that, think of AMC trading in a channel, right? And say that this macro channel right now, well, it's clearly descending. We haven't established yet a macro bottom. If you zoom out, say on the daily or weekly chart, this still would not be considered a bottom until we cross a major resistance level and then establish support on that resistance level. So it's still, macro-wise, guys, it takes time. And you also don't want something to pump like crazy, because a lot of the times when it pumps like crazy, if it starts to fall like crazy, well, then you get yourself a pump and dump, right? So we don't really want that either. We want something where it shows, strong support. We pull up the Carvana chart a lot, because I think that's a really good example of the way that some of some stocks that have been dumped from 2020, how they're climbing on the way up here and exiting the accumulation phase here. It all started off where it falls down to that 350 range and then goes all the way up to 20, in a matter of a few months. That's pretty crazy. But then look at that, right? On the macro, it starts to fall back down to that $5 range. So it's like all this got canceled out very quickly. And same thing here with Amy. Like Amy could do the same thing, right? It could go, I don't know, it could go maybe to, if it does something similar to Carvana, 3 to 20 would be maybe going to that $12 range or something like that, and then maybe falls back down to 3 or 5, something like that, trades sideways, and then continues to rise. But it's slow, it's steady, and then look at where Carvana is at now. It went up to 100. I mean, this thing went from $3 to 100, right, in a matter of a year, pretty much a year. So, yeah, just look at this chart, man. Look at this chart as a reference chart, right? It gets beat down from 400 to 3. AMC with the split gets beat down from 400 to pretty much 250, so about $1 less than Carvana. Also, another thing, the chart, this is why market cap's important, but with Carvana, they didn't have, right? They didn't have splits, and they also, like, if we were looking at it a little bit differently, they didn't dilute their shareholders. It was one of the things that I didn't like about the AMC thing. Obviously, the dilution here caused the price to come down. We talked about this before, how that kind of incentivizes these shorts to pile back in when the price is high, and kind of make it seem like the price never went down. I think it's a manipulation tactic a little bit here with the shorts. So I never really liked that about AMC, but at the end of the day, looking at market cap and just how many outstanding shares there are in the stock and all that stuff, there definitely is a correlation between Carvana and AMC in that. So kind of makes it have the same likelihood of doing the same thing with, as long as the volume is the same. So all that stuff matters, guys. At the end of the day, it's just right now, it's just a matter of like when we're going to finally turn around, and if we're going to turn around, right? It's very important to see that. Want to see AMC turn around here and start climbing up. Okay. Another thing, and I do like to, for those that don't understand how the cycle works and are maybe curious on what we see and track in these POIs. We don't track and we don't try and predict squeezes or anything. These POIs that come in here, they just have a correlation, guys, and a pretty nice correlation of telling us where volatility tends to happen. And that's all I do, man. I'm not here calling for upside or downside. I'm here just waiting for these POIs as we've tracked them before. That's all it is. With the market right now, pull this, actually, let's do this so we can kind of see them two together. Okay, here's SPY. Here's AMC. Here we go. It's crazy that we're kind of seeing like this inverse effect take place on SPY and AMC. It's kind of weird. It almost like it's following the UVXY, right, or the VIX, and it. So we haven't really seen this happen on AMC, like following obviously the peak on AMC. Like SPY was pretty steady on the way up. The only other time, and this is why I'm kind of separating the charts here a little bit, like this distribution, macro distribution phase lasted from January 2022 until August 2023. We'd consider this distribution because then we have a declining phase here, and then probably something new. This is almost like the chart reset itself. It's what it feels like to me, because the markets were pretty much doing the same thing. We have a distribution, short-term distribution, accumulation, and then now a reaccumulation, potentially just climbing again. AMC is kind of resetting here in the cycle. If you go back to 2020, we kind of have something similar happening here where we have the markets taking that dip, but it's like this version of the chart is just a lot bigger over here. It's way bigger. And AMC's late about it. It's very late about it. Same with GameStop. It's GameStop also seems to be in still that declining phase a little bit. But on this peak, doesn't surprise me at all that we're seeing AMC kind of turn around here a little bit, already up 20-something% in the last 2 days. It does not surprise me one bit. And like we talked about with SPY, guys, I think SPY is going to turn around very soon. It might hit that 490 range very quickly, and then I think it's going to start climbing back up. And maybe that is the start here of a macro reversal on AMC, especially if we're expecting SPY to trade in an upper range, between 500 and 590, or 590, I'm sorry, 550, for 490 and 550, I would say, within the next year. I'd see it trading in that range. And if it does that, if it's going to be trading sideways, then it kind of makes sense that they start pumping these smaller stocks, because the blue chips, the mid-cap stocks, kind of already pumped, right? They're almost entering like a macro distribution phase a little bit. NVIDIA and them, they might just trade sideways until a market correction that could maybe last 2 years, guys. The market correction that I see happening, I really don't see it happening till 2025. So it might just be choppy for those guys. And now it's the small guys' turn, man. It's the small guys' turn now to kind of do their thing. Here's how I see it happen on the last cycle. Right, AMC starts to pump, and let's take June for example here. AMC starts to pump like crazy in June, and the markets, you can see they dump here in October. Right, AMC still choppy, and then they come down. Everything comes down with it. That's like a macro. But before it did that, how long did it last? Right, it was still going up here, but coming from like a major correction, SPY was just steady on the way up. Volatility was really drying on SPY up until September 2021, when everything had already pumped. Similar to this is a lot bigger. This is not over yet. It's a lot bigger. And also, if you take 2020, that happened so fast, we saw all this money here get wiped away very quickly. It came up on that range, and then it was very slow and steady on the way up. So it's very different. I think we're in a very different sort of setup here in chart. I think this is going to be a lot bigger. So if it's going to be a lot bigger, if we're projecting that to be a lot bigger, and this is just that first drop, watch. Makes sense here on this one. We talked about this on the Discord the other day. I think it's a very good example. But here it is, changes again. Following the two, guys. Why I'm using 3 different parameters here. We're using 100 or 1250, 250, and In this case, we're going to do 25. Again, it's going to show us all the levels, similar to the fast Fourier transform, where you get the dissection of the chart. You get individual sine waves, and then you can kind of correlate each one until you get a match on every parameter. And that's the same thing right here. We have a match pretty much everywhere in this section here from 2012 to 2013. Okay, we took that chart, or that section, as correlation. So September here, or October, where is it? October of 2011 was the low. And then we have like this entire section here. And I think we're somewhere in like July, maybe June of 2013. Okay. And now we have the low here, or what is the low in October also. And then now you kind of start to see things from that perspective, because again, we're taking all the levels here. They're pretty much the same. The second parameter that we're using has SPY taking a breather at that 30% range. Okay, we have some correlation there. And down here first, we have two versions of that. Over here, I think it's a little bit slower, but pretty much the levels are the same, right? You got the low. You have a few gaps here. The levels are still hitting. And then down here as well, you have a peak. You have a little correction, and then the price starts to climb back up again. So this is pretty much where I have that target, where I'm getting that target from. All right, guys, the low. Here we go, the low. Here's our mid-range. Another. Okay, starts to climb up. You have your first dip. Everybody think the market's going to crash, and then boom, the price starts to climb back up. I would not be surprised at all if by May or June, I'm going to say June, if by June we're trading back up in that 530 range. And if we are going to do that, if we do that, again, expect maybe some of these blue chips, even like Mara and the cryptocurrencies, Tesla, to start coming back up. And this right here is basically just telling us that the market is not ready. This is probably going to be a huge shift here, because this is our first, think about the first drop. If that first major drop corrects itself V reversal style, then that just pretty much says that we're either going to get ready for another high, another all-time high, maybe another maybe a reaccumulation phase where it does that, or what I think is going to happen is we're going to get there. We're going to get another all-time high, and then we're going to start to enter potentially a distribution, like getting ready for a distribution. But this distribution, it should not be something major. I still think that the markets are going to trail in a range and still go up. But I think it's going to be slow. It's just going to be trading sideways, guys, for so long. We have this already. We did this with the copycat. Copycat indicator, right, is using the fast Fourier formula for this, and we did it on the weekly chart for this. Crazy, crazy, crazy thing. Let's see. It's right here. We took this in October 31st. So when Copycat was posted, let me try and line this up. And when Copycat was posted, it predicted the bottom, which this indicator is not supposed to be like predicting price action, but it normally gives the correct levels. I mean, you look at how accurately this predicted it. We used spots and Copycat again on the low here in 2022, and it's saying that the high here and then a distribution phase would be right around 550. I mean, look at where we're at now, and it's crazy to me, guys, that even on this projection here, which is 2 years of data, almost 3, is calling for that first initial dip here to that 490 range. And this is just the average, and we're currently doing that right now. Crazy, crazy stuff. So I do agree with this. I think it's going to end up doing this in the coming months, potentially 2 years of just trading in this range, this like descending range. But yeah, to that point, guys, AMC, yeah, we're seeing that inverse effect take place a little bit. Would make sense to start climbing up as well in that range. I mean, guys, go on the yearly chart. It's due, man. It's due for a reversal. What do you do when you look at stocks like this? I mean, it's like if you were looking at, I don't know, the hourly chart or something, and this was a potential trade. I mean, on the yearly chart, if this candle turned green and you have like a wick or something that comes close to this range, I mean, that's a pretty big move. Again, Carvana did this, right? It goes from in 1 year from $3 to 61, and then a continuation to 100. AMC is not there yet. I mean, and we don't know if it's going there, but knowing that other stocks with an option chain have done this before, that's important. It's important to track. Okay, talk about a few other things, guys. Crypto and AMC. Here's the daily. Here's the 5-minute. Want to see what's going on inside. This. Oh, I was going to pull up one more thing too. It's probably going to make this very slow just because I don't even know what date I have inputted. 2024 1 2 to all these. Oh, these go back to what? 2023. Okay. I just want to show you guys something. So a little bit different than all-in-one. This indicator, instead of splitting up the sections that we're tracking using ROC formula, rate of change, instead of tracking that every 50 bars like we normally do, this one tracks it from a starting point. So from a starting point, it's going to tell you what percentage a stock has moved, so you can clearly see it, and it's not just the price. What percentage the price has moved from that starting point. So I'm using 2023 for this. I could use 2021, and things are going to look a little bit different. But using 2023, I mean, we can clearly see here Carvana is a winner, right? This has a lot of stocks in it. This has about, and I'm missing one here. Should probably move this. 2020. Okay, here we go. Here's NVIDIA. And then up here we have Coinbase. Coinbase, MicroStrategy. AOI. Carvana is clearly the winner. It's up from that starting point 2023 where a lot of stocks exited. This is how you know Carvana is ahead of the game. Carvana, when the markets when the markets reach the bottom, Carvana is the stock that is leading right now. It's basically it looks to be a macro reaccumulation phase and wants to go higher maybe in the coming months. But if you take a look at the very bottom here, it won't surprise you one bit what is at the bottom. Previously on AMC, we we did this using the all-in-one indicator. I just had a very high parameter I was using so we could see it, and it was at the bottom. But this one from January and from the markets, pretty much the markets already trailing to turn around. The markets already been, we're ahead in October 2022. They did that, the bottom there, and then we had the first step. The first step was early in 2023, and that is where I'm getting the starting point from. But AMC is still at the bottom. AMC is at negative 92%. The only one that's beating it right here on my list is BNGO. BNGO, another stock in the game that's kind of in the same sort of meme sector, if you will, like that big box of stocks that were climbing in 2021. But yeah, AMC is still at the bottom. We have even we have Workhorse here. We have ChargePoint. We have Save. Spirit Airlines. It's crazy to me that this one is all the way down here from 2023, and a few others that are down there. But even GameStop is doing way better. It's up at negative 40%, so not that bad. But yeah, just to show you guys, I mean, oversold stocks. Now, again, I will always play, devil's advocate in that. When stocks are trading in that range, that doesn't mean that they're going to turn around and do what Carvana did. But it's just pretty much telling you, like, it is oversold. It's extremely oversold. Here is what Carvana did, okay, in 2023. Now we're going to go, because Carvana started to rise very quickly then. I'm going to go to January now, 2021, and you guys can kind of see how things look a little bit different when you start to go into that range. This is where we got to look at the very, very macro picture. The very, very macro picture. When you look at this chart then, and we're just looking at, this one here is only looking at a few, right? We do have Carvana in this one, but I just want you guys to look at this chart. If you're tracking from 2021, anybody who bought GME in 2021, early 2021, is still up higher than Carvana. So now you kind of start to look at things a little bit differently there, because GME is trading at 120%. So things look a little bit different, but that's GME. That's not AMC. AMC is still going to be down negative 74%. Not more than other stocks. There are other stocks that are even lower. If you take a look at 2021, we have NVAX. We also have NEO, Nikola, CAI. These guys are still down lower than AMC. And this is how you look at a chart based on, here, let's go to, what was AMC's all-time low? Was somewhere, I believe, in November of 2020. Okay, so a little bit less than that. And how also telling you guys why the market cap chart matters, because this number down here, okay, from the bottom here, you can see that from this point, no, I don't think I have the bottom. Let's see. Bottom was, oh, it was January. That was the bottom, right? But not the market cap bottom. The market cap bottom has not been hit yet. So, yeah, man, crazy stuff. OCGN, also another stock that had some correlation back in 2021. Look at this to kind of see. And I do like the all-in-one indicator a little bit better, just because, think about it, splitting all these sections, and just say I want to focus, just on this little section here. Well, if I choose the 50 bar parameter, it's going to split things up every 50 bars. And then that way I can really analyze where price action is showing a lot of volatility rather than looking at this chart, because even though it's better than looking at, price, stocks overlaid with just price individually, a lot of them do have, like GME here going up 7,000 and something percent. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, guys, AMC down quite a bit. Let's try and put everything over there. I mean, maybe like everything around the same time. It's like August 2020. There's only a few stocks that are extremely killing it right now in the game. And I think they're going to go even higher. One of them is Sava. Sava surprisingly has been, I think, one of the highest return stocks like in a really long time. I think it's beating the entire market right now, and I think it's going to go even higher. So it's crazy. Let's see. This is Sava right here in green. But look at that, guys. Even from 2020, GME is still up. It's still one of the highest returned stocks over this amount of time. GME, if you go back to August, this was, I think, GME's bottom. It was August 2020. And it's still at the top. I mean, there's only a few other ones that are beating it. I think ANF, we have MicroStrategy, okay, Sava, X, okay, Mara up in the game. All-time low, some of these all-time low stocks. Let's see, CGC, cannabis. AMC is still going to be, from that time, is still very oversold. I mean, we're not that far ahead from some of these other guys. Workhorse, another one that is almost down 99%. Same with Nikola, SKLZ. Some of these Chinese companies, NVAX still, and Peloton, Virgin Galactic. A lot of these guys, man. All right, I wanted to pull up Carvana, though, because I think that was the one I wanted to compare it to Amy here. So if you take a look at just Carvana and AMC, and this is going to be the correlation with like percentage. We're gonna take everything else out, and we're gonna look at just the two. So here is Carvana versus AMC right now. Okay. Here is the low. Hit that negative 98%. And we're going to look at the low here. January. There we go. A little bit better. So obviously Carvana didn't have like it didn't really have, I don't think, a move like trying to get the entire data here. Might look a little bit better. From Carvana's low. It wouldn't matter much on AMC because AMC had already created its low over here. But yes, so if you take a look at both of them, using the high, look guys, the high of Carvana isn't that far off from AMC. It says it goes up around the same to that 1,000. So AMC went up higher, which kind of makes sense to why it's slightly in that lower range right now, but dumps the same way. And then Carvana has the accumulation phase here in 2023. Okay, climbs back up, and now I mean it's clearly ascending. While AMC is in a different phase. They're just in different phases. We talked about the clashing of worlds here in November of 2021. This is where everything started to dump together. Everything was tracking 1-to-1, and then it slowly, started straying away. Right in 2023, January here, going up, and he's going down. Okay. Why are these levels here so similar at the bottom? It's not even that far off in, why can't I use this? Look at that. Level-wise, these two are almost down the same. Carvana goes down to that negative 86. AMC is at negative 85. Dude. If I took out the smoother, it won't show me on the daily. Let's add Mara. Because with Mara, we were previously tracking like 2017. Okay, so now it's not going to show us Carvana because it doesn't have that much data. $98 here. It's from its all-time. Okay, so this is the max data we have on AMC and Mara. Here's the low on both. Here's the low on AMC, negative 98.5. With Mara, it did go down to that negative 95. And that's, guys, that's part of the reason why, too. Like, think about it this way. Like, with shorts and kind of the mechanism here of, like, how shorts function and how it works, how they even make money. Stocks can go up, right, an infinite amount, but stocks can't. So if they can't, you kind of got to think about it with these like volatility, high volatility stocks. They're going to try as much as they can to get it down to and as low as they can because, well, to the upside. And this is why we track these POI zones, and some of them are pretty hefty because, like the last one here in August goes down the same amount as AMC went up in June. You have shorts that piled in at the 80. Some of them piled in at the 80. If you shorted AMC at 80 and it went down to 8, that's 1,000% gain. In January, it was actually closer to January. AMC went, I think, up about 1,200. Trying to get the wick here, guys. The wick is what's important. Yeah, so about 1,200, and then here about 1,000. And if they kept shorting it, right, then it's a little different. 2,000, say that's the bottom or something. 2,000, 3,000. Look at that, 3,000. Here, $4,000. You got to look at that thing, this a little bit here. Longs get 4,000 on this. Shorts get 3,000 on this. And then shorts also get this, though. anybody who shorted over here. I mean, like, you got to think about this number too. It's very important. And that's something I think that gets thrown out a little bit here is like shorts sometimes, yeah, they are. That's the mechanism, man. And not everybody can short either. It's harder to short, so that it makes sense that these market makers and these bigger companies push the volume and the price down because they know the majority of retail and traders are long, right? And obviously with options, things are a little bit different. You can't just purchase options at the peak and then get your money's worth in April 2024 because they have to open up these contracts and then you have theta decay, you have volatility decay, all that stuff plays into that options value at the end of the day. So with this, I'm specifically talking about just shorts, like buying the stock, that kind of thing. Kind of makes sense why things play out the way they do. But when they bottom and when they're done cycling through this, this like just ugly, very ugly cycle that's lasted almost 4 years, if a stock is going to turn around, and we've seen many turn around, here's a prime example, Mara. Mara goes down to that 99% range, and once it bottoms, it comes back and starts leading again. It comes back and starts leading again, man. Like, it's just pump and dump, years, turns around. NVAX, another one. The only way stocks don't do that is if they go bankrupt and if they get delisted. So that is the only risk really involved with that, is delisting and bankruptcy. If not, then they're just used for cycling, guys, repeating cycles. Back and forth. Pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump. For years and years and years, right? Pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump. Okay. All right, guys. That is it for today's stream. Again, wanted to talk about Amy here in the cycle. We are inside the POI. We have about 8 days left, I believe, market trading days until the peak. I'll post a video here in the coming days, and we'll keep updating AMC. Like always, inside the POI is really focusing on the volatility. And one of the key levels I talked about on Amy is 350 by the end of the week. If it doesn't reach that, and I'll definitely have my input in on this, the way that I anticipated things happening here, if this is a positive POI, I anticipated things to kind of, move fairly quickly and not come down to the range they did. So because it is in a spring setup and things are back at pretty much $3, as long as this move holds, I think the price is looking very decent here for a turnaround. Now, obviously, if the price comes back down to 240 or something, if there's a catalyst and this is just a fake out, we'll see that happen pretty drastically. I think if it's a dead cat, we'll see it happen drastically. In the POI, that would not be good. Kind of going back to the whole market cap chart we talked about and how, like if AMC did that, things would not be looking good. But if it holds here and this is actually the spring, I would expect definitely some volatility to the upside if it goes up to 350. And like we talked about, a 70% push to the upside from the current levels would be about that 550 range by the end of April. So again, I'm not calling for either levels, guys. I'm just showing you guys what the correlation is with the cycle and normally what we see happen inside these zones, okay? Awesome. Thank you for coming in. Subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next stream, all right? All right, bye-bye.